Banff-Kananaskis has the call.
Mr. Speaker, over the last few months, thousands of Albertans have raised concerns about logging in Kananaskis over an internationally significant trail network and the headwaters of the Highwood River. The Blood Nation and the Yarhe Nakota are concerned about impacts to sites of significance and potential burial grounds and a lack of sufficient funding to conduct effective site visits. Yet again, this government refuses to acknowledge or even listen to the concerns of Albertans and First Nations. Will the Minister of Forestry and Parks conduct meaningful public consultation and engagement on logging in Kananaskis?
The Honourable Minister of Forestry and Parks.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks for the question. I think it's important for people to realize that Kananaskis Country is a geographic area. It isn't actually a park itself, but within that park, there's multiple provincial parks and provincial recreation areas and ecological reserves. And so when we look at the Kananaskis, there's parts of that that are multi-use, which includes forestry. That's part of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. And so allocated forestry operations do happen in parts of Kananaskis. The process that they go through to create their plans involves public consultation, so the public has had a chance to have involvement in that, and will continue to be.
The Honourable Member for Banff-Kananaskis.
Well, given that those consultations were clearly inadequate because logging in the headwaters of the Highwood River Park or public land use zone is and has been opposed by residents, municipalities, and stakeholders for years. And given that intact forests in the headwaters mitigate the impacts of flood and drought and provide critical habitat for several species at risk, and given that protesters gathered at this logging site this past weekend demanding a pause to logging, is the minister even listening? What is the minister going to do to work with the community and forestry companies to address these valid concerns?
The Honourable Minister of Forestry and Parks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks again for the question. Obviously, the forest companies do engage with the public. They take consideration of all the people that contact them, and we do likewise in my Ministry of Forestry and Parks. When we know that proper forest management involves forest harvest. When we look at a lot of our forests, it's become very old and very dry, and we know that that's susceptible to fire, and actually devastating fires have happened because of the age of our forests in some areas. When we look at Kananaskis, a lot of those areas were logged about 80 years ago, and so a lot of the result is because of forest management.
The Honourable Member for Banff-Kananaskis.
Well, given that some of this logging overlaps an internationally recognized and popular trail network in West Bragg Creek, and given that the government granted local trail organizations hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Kananaskis Conservation Pass to build and maintain this network, and given that the local community invested thousands of volunteer hours to do so, will the minister admit that this whole fiasco is created by his promising the same trees to forestry and tourism? Does the right hand even know what the left is doing?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks again for the question. The member knows that the forest practice that's happening right now was the same forest practice that was happening while they were in power, and so this is continuing on. We know we have a world-class organization when we follow international and national standards when it comes to our forestry operations. They do a great job. They do a world-class job, and the members opposite should be proud of that instead of trying to discredit that. We know that that Kananaskis is a great place to recreate, but it also has a multi-use, and that's part of the